So, these Typhlosion raids, they're going to be pretty easy, honestly, all things considered. It only has 4 special attacks that are not normal or fire. They are Shadow Ball, Focus Blast, Solar Beam, and the fairly weak Extrasensory. I only consider 3 moves to actually be in this viable move pool, because most of everything you're going to use are actually Dark types who are outright immune to the Extrasensory. So, you can basically completely discount it. For setup moves, it only gets 3. Smokescreen, Howl, and Defense Curl. Not too big of a problem. We'll get into Smokescreen, which is a bit of an issue for some things, and we do have a plan in case it does actually use this. There's actually a lot of options you can use for these battles. The best ones are actually going to be Chi-Yu and Houndoom. Hisuian Zoroark is also fantastic, and there's many other fantastic Dark and even some great Ghost types that can really be used. But we're going to be sticking a bit to the basics because there's really a lot of fantastic ones here, and almost every single one of them has actually the same downsides as others, so it's really pick whichever one's your favorite. The only real exception here is actually the Hisuian Zoroark. Before we actually get on to the rest of the video, I would like to mention to you guys that we have a shiny giveaway going on right now. It'll be going up in 2 weeks. Subscribe if you want to get entered for that. Hisuian Zoroark, Chi-Yu, and Houndoom all have the same exact basic setup. They're going to be modest 252 special attacking EVs. You're going to want to go full HP on these things because it could have physical stats, but very unlikely. And you're going to want Nasty Plot and the special same attack bonus of choice, either Dark Pulse for Chi-Yu and Houndoom, or Shadow Ball for Hisuian Zoroark. Chi-Yu is the single most powerful of your options for this. Beads of Ruin cuts this thing's special defense by 25%. It has an enormous special attack and actually a very high special defense, can safely set up those nasty plots and start blasting away with Dark Pulse. Houndoom, while weaker in terms of offense and actually less bulky, has one major advantage, and that is Beads of Ruin is incredibly powerful, but the issue is it actually destroys the special defense of your allies. Meaning, because very likely Typhlosion is going to be a special attacker, this heavily is problematic for your partners. If your partners are not using Chi-Yu, you're not going to want to use Chi-Yu. It very heavily hinders you. Which is where Houndoom comes in. It's a good sort of budget Chi-Yu. It doesn't cut your defenses, but it does have an immunity to fire, and considering it's very likely Typhlosion is going to lead off with an Eruption, the most powerful attack it actually has, which is a spread fire move, which deals damage based on HP, there actually are benefits to this. Again, it can similarly set up Nasty Plot and start blasting with Dark Pulse. Again, less powerful, but you trade out better bulk and better power for better preserving of your, survival. Because when you do Terastallize, Chi-Yu does take those fire-type moves. Now we no longer resist them. Whereas when Houndoom Terastallizes in Dark, it actually still retains its immunity to those very powerful fire stab moves Typhlosion has access to, which makes it very viable for a solo. The only thing they have to fear is really Focus Blast. This is where Hisuian Zoroark actually heavily differentiates itself. It's very likely going to have ghost moves, obviously, because it's a ghost type. It's very likely going to have normal moves, because they're really the only special attacks it gets outside of the ones we mentioned before, and it's likely going to get fighting moves to deal with its dark type counters. All of which Hisuian Zoroark is immune to, because it is normal ghost. Immune to fighting, immune to normal. The only issue it suffers from is that it actually is incredibly frail, and it does not like taking those very powerful fire-type moves. Even physical fire-type moves, with how low the physical attack stat of Typhlosion is, will still do a lot because it's 60 HP, 60 defense, and 60 special defense. Not the best for long-term survival. Though, if Rain is set up or screens are properly applied, it can do very, very well. But before we get on to the next options, I would like to ask you guys, if you haven't done so already, please do not forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Looking at the analytics, there's about a third of you guys that are not subscribed, so please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It very much helps us out here. One small click for you, one massive benefit for us. But now, back to the rest of the options, because there's a lot of actually very good dark types, and even onto some solo strategy. Pretty much every dark type is actually viable here. Everything from Tyranitar to, Roaring Moon and Iron Jugulus and Hydreigon. There's a few dark types that are actually not at all viable, and those we're going to go over right now. They are Meowscarada, Greninja, and King Gambit. The issue with King Gambit is, while it is incredibly powerful, it actually has Defining Kowtow Cleave, which is one of the things that is actually a very good way around if Smokescreen is applied. The issue is, it has very low special defense, and it is very slow, meaning any fire moves will blast into oblivion, and its quad weakness to fighting is not very good. The issue with Greninja and Meowscarada is, despite the fact that you can change your typing because of Protean, they are still both incredibly frail. Greninja will lose its resistance to fire-type moves when, of course, changing into Protean Dark, and Meowscarada is also quite frail naturally, and if the Typhlosion leads off with a start-up fire-type move, Meowscarada will get nuked into oblivion with it, so it's not a very good option to use either of these, because in the end, they will end up hurting more than actually helping. Tera raids are concerned with long-term survival. Glass cannons typically do not do well unless they have complete immunity to high-level threatening attacks. But this is where we get into the other dark types. Bulky attackers, as mentioned before, are fantastic here. All their physical dark types are actually really good. Again, Tyranitar, a Dragon Dance setting up, is terrifyingly powerful. Roaring Moon, much the same. The only issue they have to watch out for is actually if Will-O-Wisp or any fire-type moves have a chance of burning, which is one sort of issue for them, but if burns are not present, or Misty Terrain is applied, they're actually quite solid. Though your better options are actually your special attackers. Hydreigon gets that lovely nasty plot set. Also resists fire. Again, only weak to Focus Blast, again, as every single other one we've mentioned is so far. Iron Jugulus, while weaker in terms of offensive power, it does not have nasty plot, it gets workup. It is weak to nothing that Typhlosion has, with the exception of the very weak rollout, or play rough. Neither of which are too particularly threatening, so it's a very safe option. Some others that are also quite good are actually potentially Spirit Tomb because it gets access to Snarl. It isn't the most powerful, but Snarl can lower the offensive power, of course, of the, well, Typhlosion, while resisting most everything it has and actually being immune to those fighting type moves. Again, neutral damage by Ghost, neutral damage by Fire, not particularly fast, not great, but it can work well. Honchkrow gets Nasty Plot. Very powerful glass cannon, but again, it is a glass cannon. It doesn't appreciate taking those special neutral fire moves well, but it can work if properly supported by screen. There's even a fair few Ghost options that are fantastic here. Annihilate, Rage Fist, Shadow Claw, and it does have Defiance, so even if Typhlosion is using something, say, like Smokescreen, you have those Defiant procs. If it only has special attacks, Fluttermane is a top-tier attacking option. Massive special defense, incredibly high special attack, and of course, that devastating Shadow Ball. If Typhlosion is setting up Sun to, of course, do Solar Beam shenanigans, juice up its own special attacks, that only benefits Fluttermane by activating Photosynthesis. To a degree, it also benefits Roaring Moon. Pretty much every single one of these attackers is going to want either Modest Nature if they're a special attacker, or Adamant Nature if they are a physical attacker, 252 EVs in the respective offensive stat, and max out the HP. Shell Bell is of course the item of choice on them, as of course they are damage dealers. They like that little bit of, well, generalized damage sustain. Now for your supportive options. Many of these are actually the same as ones we've had before, though Revavroom is not a good option for this one. Instead, what you're going to want are your very wonderful Acid Spray Skuntank. It itself is a dark type, meaning that it also can do damage. Not the most powerful, mind you, but it is one capable of dealing out at least a little bit of damage. Of course, Acid Spray Screech cripples defenses, lets allies get those openings. Fake Tears Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is always one of the best support options. Misty Terrain to prevent against burns, Screens to, of course, reduce damage, Spirit Break to cripple those special attackers, and Misty Terrain to prevent those burns. If I've said that already, it's because it's very, very valuable to not have your stuff get burnt. This is also where a bit of a newcomer is actually Umbreon. Its bulk is so much that it can shrug off anything Typhlosion is capable of throwing at it. It itself is a dark type, so again, it can use Dark Pulse, Screech, Fake Tears, Helping Hand. It's fantastic. And now, because this is I know where most of you guys are looking forward to, is actually the solo attempts. And there's actually a few options I've thought of for this. Iron Jugulus, as mentioned before, is one of the safest options here. It gets work up, it gets those dark moves, doesn't have a way of crippling, of course, the special defensive stats, but it can survive quite well. A bit of an unconventional one is actually Farigiraf, because it actually has Sap Sipper. It is outright immune to if Solar Beam is carried. Its only real worry is it does have to watch out, of course, for Fire-type special attacks, but it shrugs off the fighting moves, it is completely immune to Dark, gets Shadow Ball, gets Nasty Plot. Not bad. Plus again, gets those stored powered shenanigans I know a lot of you guys love using. Though, a bit of an unconventional solo option is actually Umbreon. Yeah, I mentioned Umbreon before, and it's actually quite good here. Again, gets Fake Tears, it gets Screech, gets Foul Play, which rebounds attacks it into itself, which, even though it isn't much of a physical attacker, it still is able to rebound the higher physical stacking stat of the Typhlosion back into the Typhlosion. Or it can go with Fake Tears into Dark Pulse. Either option is fantastic while having excellent bulk. For the Umbreon, though, you're going to want leftovers on it, because it has a lot of health. You're going to want that health being replenished. Potentially even a Chi-Yu solo. I don't see this as easy, but who knows? It's actually quite powerful. There's a lot of options for these Tera raids, at least with this one, just because of the typing. Again, the issue is every single Dark type that is actually quite good for this are weak to fighting, which very likely this thing is going to be carrying. So you need to watch out for things such as Focus Blast. But so long as mindful of Focus Blast, it's going to be pretty easy. Again, if you guys haven't done so already, please don't forget to hit that subscribe, leave a like, comment below what you guys are planning on using. That's something to know what I'm using. Let's rock and roll. And also, do not forget to share this out to your friends. Let them all know what we're doing around here. We are doing a shiny giveaway in a couple of weeks. So, subscribe and get signed up for that.